How to get better at sim racing. I'm asking you. Nah, I'm just kidding. But what I am going to do is give you a priority list starting for what I think you need to be learning first and perfecting all the way through to just being able to refine your own sim racing, whether it be casual or more serious. Starting with car control. As you can see, as we enter the corner, we get a nasty bit of understeer. And on the exit, a nasty bit of oversteer. Breakfast! But why? As you can see, for the first part, we simply overload the front tyres. Whilst we're heavily braking into the corner, on the straight, we're about on the limit of the front tyres. The second we start to turn, we essentially go over the limit. This is causing understeer. And as we exit, we bang all the weight to the rear because we go pretty much full throttle. This is overloading the rear, which in turn oversteers the car, which will undoubtedly really annoy you and ruin your race. As you'll see in this clip, we enter and exit much smoother, and smoother usually means faster. Now what I want you to do on this next clip is really keep an eye on my steering inputs and also the red and green bar. The red bar being the braking inputs, the green bar being the acceleration inputs. And now let's go look back at the first clip and compare them both. So what was the difference in the clips? I could tell you now the majority of the differences was on the corner entry and corner exits. As you can see, we started both examples from the same spot. In the bad example, we enter the corner with much more brake force. In the good example, we start trailing off. Whenever you're braking or turning, you're asking essentially your front tyres to do work, so you have to share the load between turning and braking. So essentially in the good example, when we start trailing off the brakes, we're going down further under the limit, which gives us back more available workload that we can use in our steering inputs. And the rear tyres have a workload too, so the more you accelerate, especially around a corner, the more workload you're using up, and when you hit that limit, then you start to oversteer. In the bad example, we just throw on the gas and cause oversteer because we've thrown too much workload into the rear tyres all at once. In the good example, we just progressively add on the accelerator, getting close to the limit as we can, getting a much smoother, faster, and more stable corner exit. Essentially, what you've just learned to do is trail braking, which, to be honest, when it comes to sim racing, is the most screamed and shouted about magical thing that you can do, when in fact it's just a good habit to get in. However, not all corners require trail braking. Some corners, if you try and trail brake, especially on something really fast, too much or too deep, you'll put too much load onto the front tyres, causing an understeer, or just remove too much load from the rear, causing oversteer. Admittedly, it wasn't the fact that I trail braked into the corner, I just trail braked incorrectly because it required a different kind of trail brake to the one that we seen originally. I just wanted to exaggerate what I just said. Before we move on, a quick mention on tyre temperature. Depending on what racing sim that you're using, tyre temperatures can play a major role in your car handling and where the limit of your tyres are. Cold tyres, not very grippy, pretty slippy, be careful. Warm tyres mean sticky tyres, and if you start pushing the limit a little bit too far, you might cook your tyres, meaning that they get very slippy again. Now a quick recap of what we've just spoken about, and we'll start off with overloading the front, which usually results in understeer. So what's happening in understeer? Well, basically we're asking the front tyres to do too much. They lose grip first, and they don't turn as much as we'd like them to. The common causes of understeer are turning in too sharply, braking too harshly into corner entry, and just carrying too much entry speed. And what happens when we understeer? We run wide, we miss the apex, we turn, the car says, nah mate, nah, we're just going a straight line almost. Simply put, if you overload the front tyres, the car's going to stop turning, and that's understeer. So to prevent understeer, it's completely fine to hit the limit whilst we're braking in a straight line. But if you remember what we said earlier, when we're wanting to turn, we're actually asking the front tyres to do more work, which means that whilst we're on the limit braking, when we start to turn, we actually go over the limit, causing understeer. So whilst we're braking in a straight line, the second that we want to turn towards our apex, we start to lift off the brake pedal. And when we start lifting off the brake pedal, that gives us some workload room to be able to add in some steering. So the more we want to steer, the more we want to lift off the brake pedal. And once we're off the brake pedal and turning at our optimal turning circle, if you want to call it that, we may start to find that we want to stabilize the rear and start to add on some gas. We don't want to add on too much gas immediately, because what's going to happen is we're going to throw all the weight to the rear and overload the rear and cause an oversteer. And to avoid that, we just gradually add on the gas. There are a ton of trail braking videos out there. A lot of them are absolutely fantastic, and a lot of them do go into trail braking in more depth than this video. However, in this video, like I said in the first video that I talked about in how to improve your sim racing, I am going to go in each video more and more in depth and more advanced. And in the very, very near future, I am going to go over trail braking into an insane depth that covers multiple corners, multiple places where you can trail brake, and different cars. In this video, it's more controlling the car with a hint of trail braking. Now, what I do see a lot of videos missing is how to exit a corner and how to not lose the rear end whilst in or coming towards the end of a trail brake. When you are trail braking, what you are essentially doing whilst you're trailing off the brake pedal to allow more steer, you're allowing the car to rotate. It's rotating because you're removing the weight from the rear tyres. Now, that is great whilst you wanted to rotate, especially on those tighter hairpins. But when you're on a faster bend and you need some rotation, but you also need to have a fast exit, when you're taking the weight off the rear tyres, you are losing traction. And a lot of the time, well, to be honest with you, in one of the earlier clips, how I made the car oversteer, I just got weight onto the front of the car and then just whacked on the gas because I knew that there wasn't much weight on the rear tyres, meaning that there wasn't much traction on the rear tyres. So basically, to avoid oversteer, what we do is just carefully shift the weight from the front of the car to the rear. We don't want to do it too quickly. We're going to unsettle the car and lose control. Now, what I want you to do is go in a practice session and don't look at this, what I've said, as trail braking. I want you to look at it slightly differently. I want you to look at it as sharing the workload of the front and rear tyres, managing the weight of the vehicle, with it being on the front, the middle, or the back. Stick around a couple more minutes, because I promise you this is probably going to be the most important part of the video, because it's actually what got me to click when I was racing on track, and it translated perfectly well to sim racing. What I did was I taught myself to visualize my car being half filled with water, and I treat the ceiling of the car, the roof of the car, whatever you want to call it, is the limit. So what I'd do, when I put the brake pedal on, the water would shove to the front of the car. And when I put the accelerator on, it'd shove to the rear of the car. And when I turned left, the water would go to the right. And when I turned right, the water would go to the left. Now, treating the ceiling or the roof of the car, whatever you call it, as the limit, what I'd try and picture is when I put the brake pedal on, the water would come up. And I'd try and keep it just below the ceiling in my mind. That'd be my limit. And as I turn, let's say I'm turning right. As I'm turning right to the apex, I can't just turn right, because what's going to happen is, well, the water's going to go over the ceiling. I want to keep it just under the limit. So what I'd do is just lift off the brake pedal just a smidge, and that'd give me some workload to shift over to the steering wheel. So I start turning as I'm lifting off the brake pedal, and the water would slowly be shifting to the left front side of the car. As I started approaching the apex, I realised that I need to be off the brake pedal at the apex. Depending on the corner, I'm just going to treat this explanation so I don't over-explain. It's just a normal right-hander. A normal right-hander, you brake in a straight line, start trailing off, start steering into the apex. As you get to the apex, you want to be off. You might want a little tiny coast just to stabilise the car and then accelerate. So I'm off the brake pedal now. I'm at the apex. I've got the water as I'm turning right to the left side of the car, just under the ceiling. But what I want to do now is essentially what I want to do is essentially transfer that weight to the rear of the car gradually. Imagine you've got a pint glass, you just shake it, or you just transfer the weight immediately. It's going to spill. We don't want this water on the left front side of the car to spill over of the rear side of the car. So we'll do, we gradually start putting on the accelerator whilst we start straightening up. So the more I straighten my wheel, the more room I've got for acceleration. Keeping that water steady, transferring to the rear of the car, and as we get straight, we've got now more than enough room to just plow down the accelerator and not have to worry about the water going over the top, because we've gradually sent it to the back of the car, if that makes any sense. If you could visualize that, I truly think that it's going to help you tremendously. If it didn't help you, I'm so sorry that you've just wasted. I don't think you'll have wasted a couple of minutes of your time. Honestly, it'll translate perfectly well in sim racing. Just imagine your car's half filled with water and you're trying to keep it just under the ceiling or just under the limit. Now, after that Babylon, I'm going to call it at that. In the future videos, we're going to go into trail braking in much more depth. Different cars, different corners, exits, overtaking, defending. We're going to hit things in great detail. So if you think that this is going to help you, subscribe. You'll be notified when I go live as well, streaming. You'll also be notified when I release another informative video. I'm going to call it that. I hope this has helped you. I hope it served its purpose. That's the purpose of this video. I want to help you in your sim race or even driving on track as much as I possibly can. I want to share my experiences, and future videos will also include my own MX-5 on track. Mostly it's start and hill sprints and time trials. But hopefully in the near future, if we get it right, hopefully some wheel-to-wheel racing, that'd be absolutely awesome. So anyway, I'll see you again. Thanks again. Catch you later. Bye-bye.